Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on, and welcome back to this week's Bourbon of the Week. I know what you're thinking. It's Wednesday, Chris. Why are you sitting down? And the reason is because there's a few things they don't tell you about having a kid, right? Number one, they don't tell you to always have a diaper nearby. Even when you're changing a diaper, have a diaper nearby. Number two, when you hold a child, you kind of got to arch your back a little bit, right? Because they need a place to lay their head, or else their head's wobbling all around. And if you don't have a hand free to hold a head, you kind of got to, lean back a little bit. Crushing my lower back. I don't know if anybody has any pointers on any of that information, but everybody knows before we get started on this Maker's Mark FAE-02. Time for the traditional sip. Damn. So here's the deal. This is Maker's Mark FAE-02. This is my brother-in-law's bottle. My brother-in-law let me steal a couple of his bottles for the 2021 Whiskey of the Year, and I decided before I give them back, I might as well sample them just one more time. So we're going to put the FAE-02 on the list. Now, this came in second place in the 2021 Whiskey of the Year behind Sam Houston 15. Now for that, we only tasted it, right? It was blind, so we didn't take any price. We didn't take any drinkability into consideration because we didn't know what the proof was going into it. Now, I don't know if you can see this. You can. It's right here. I have a lot of Maker's Mark. We plan on doing a Maker's Mark versus our Weller line. We have the Weller Foolproof, the Antique, and the Special Reserve. And I want to see who really is king of the weeded. I wasn't always the biggest fan of Maker's Mark, but these stave projects that they're coming out with have started to change my mind just a little bit. And during our Bourbon Bomb of the Week, we're going to talk more about what FAE is, what they're doing to make this bottle different, and everything like that. But let's get started. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button. We're pushing 2,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. We know the rules here. Price, taste, drinkability, and we're going to start with drinkability. Again, sorry for leaning back a little bit if the chair squeaks. My back hurts. I mentioned that. Let's get right into it. This comes in at 109.2 proof, 109.1 proof. I'm sorry, I'll correct myself there. 109.1. So it should have a little bit of heat behind it. It is a wheated bourbon, and when we get into taste on this, actually, that's going to be an interesting point because the wheated bourbons I don't usually get a lot of spice on. This one's giving me a little bit of spice. As far as ethanol goes, I don't think it drinks crazy under the proof, but I definitely think it does drink under the proof. If I were to drink this blind, which I have done, I thought this was more in that 100 proof range. I didn't really have anything in the lineup that was 100 proof. We had like 103 and stuff like that with the Sam Houston, but I would think it would drink more in that 100, 105 range, which isn't terrible, right? You're talking about 109, you think it's 100 to 105. So it definitely drinks under its proof, but not a crazy amount. Not as much as I thought it would, especially being a wheated bourbon and especially adding staves to this, which adds the oak and the leather notes that you're going to get. So interesting that it drinks up in the hundreds, but also interesting that it doesn't quite drink at its proof. So when it comes to drinkability on this, I'm going to give this I'll give it a pretty good score, like a 7.96 when it comes to drinkability on this. And as you know, that's going to push us over into taste on this. And the taste on this it's different, and yet it's still the same. I don't know how to explain it. So it's still Maker's Mark. You can tell that it's still Maker's Mark. But what they do with this process of adding the staves for 9 weeks after doing the whole making it Maker's Mark process is it really opens it up to some different flavors. It adds age. Now, I've talked about this process before as far as fake age. And normally you can tell what fake age is, right? Like you have like a noble oak. You know that's not a super old bourbon, but it tastes like straight oak, which gives you a little bit of that, and maybe this has some age behind it. Now, this is non-age stated, but it's also Maker's Mark cash strength, which comes into that 5 to 7 year range, is what most people are saying. It doesn't taste like a 15 or a 20-year-old or anything like that, but it does add flavors that you wouldn't get unless you aged something longer or went through the process that they went through on this, which we're going to talk about during the Bourbon Bomb of the Week. Now, do I like it? It brings out more vanillas. It brings out more caramels, like a burnt caramel. You get like burnt oak. You get a lot of wood. You get a lot of leather. Again, all that aging, quote unquote aging, definitely adds different flavor profiles than you would get on an original Maker's Mark cash strength. But at the same time, it adds spiciness. And that's where I kind of get a little bit thrown off by this. So the flavors are really good, but they're kind of all over the place, right? It's a wheated bourbon, but it almost tastes like a rye. And I think I actually mentioned that in my 2021 Whiskey of the Year, where I thought that there was a little bit of rye in this, but there's not. It's your typical Maker's Mark cash strength mash bill, which comes in at 70% corn, 16% wheat, I believe, and then 14% malted barley. So it's interesting that it does open this up to a little bit of spiciness with this process, but at the same time, it's so much going on that I haven't had the FAE-01. I heard the FAE-01 is more balanced but more bold, right? It's more in your face, where this is supposed to be their subtle. They wanted to take a step back on the boldness and bring you a little bit more subtle flavors, which I think is exactly what they accomplished. They did what they wanted to do. I would love to compare this to the FAE-01 to see which I like better. Now, I do like this taste a lot. As you already know, it came in second place. So I just want to give you every side of the coin, right? Every aspect to it, because it might not be your favorite flavor. If you're not into that oak, leather, if you're not into that spice, you might not like this as much, but that's kind of what I like. Subtle oak, subtle leather, but still having a little bit of spice, which is why I like rye bourbon so much. I'm rambling. Let's just get to a score here. I'm going to give this like a... I'm going to give it like an 8.97 when it comes to taste on this. I don't think it's the best flavor, but I think it's pretty damn good, and I'm excited about it coming from Maker's Mark because I don't normally like it. And last but certainly not least, we're going to get a price on this. This is $60, and we talk all the time about comparables. What can you compare something like this to? We've got a cash strength bourbon. We've got something that's going through a process with staves, extra 9 weeks, 5 to 7 years old, 109 proof, Maker's Mark name behind it. What are you really missing? Now, if you don't like Maker's Mark, this might not be for you, but it also might be for you because I don't love Maker's Mark, and I seem to enjoy this one a lot. They have a few expressions that I've tried that I do like. This isn't the only stave process product that I've had. I've had 2 store picks, one from Fine Wine and Good Spirits and one from Banache Liquors, and they got to pick their own staves and add it to the 9-week staving process and see if it did anything special for those. And those were pretty fantastic as well. I like those a lot. But as for this FAE-02 at $60, it's really not a bad price at all. I mean, we're talking comparable to like an Elijah Craig barrel proof, a Larceny barrel proof, which might give you a little bit more proof, but that big proof doesn't always reflect into a good product, and that's what a lot of people miss out on. Again, it drinks right at its proof, and at the same time, you still get some pretty good flavors on this. So I'm not going to hate it at $60. I'm not going to love it either because... Actually, I am. I'm going to love it at $60. I'm going to give it like an 8.57 when it comes to price on this. But listen, while I add these scores up, let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week, which is going to be right here still because I'm not moving. Learn a little bit more about this FAE-02, what it means to be FAE, and a little bit more about Maker's Mark. Cheers, y'all. So let's talk a little bit more about FAE. What does FAE stand for exactly? It stands for fatty acid stirs. What is a fatty acid stir? Well, I'm not really a scientific person myself, but I can tell you how they get those in here. Basically, they take the Maker's Mark cash strength, which is aged 5 to 7 years. They open the lid to that barrel. They have virgin French oak that they double heat treat with infrared. Now, there's kind of a controversy on what they mean by double heat treat. Does that mean they heat treat both sides, or do they heat treat one side twice? I'm still up in the air on which one I believe because I've read articles for both. Now, the FAE-01 was definitely only heat treated on one side, but the FAE-02 says double heat treat, but I'm still not sure if that means double on one side and plain on the other, or one on each side. But after they double heat treat it with infrared, then they char one side. That much we do know. Then they put these staves back in the barrel, they close it up, and they put it in the cellar, which is 55 degrees, for another 9 weeks. Now we talk all the time about the aging process and how heat can do things. Well, cold can do things too. That's going to shrink everything up. It's going to make it tight. That's going to make more bourbon touch more barrel at that moment. And for those 9 weeks with those staves floating inside and everything getting shrunk up and tight, that's when it's really going to pull in a lot of these vanillas, these caramels, a lot of that oak, and a lot of that leather. So the question is, does the process work? They've spent years talking to people about staves, about burning staves. They're trying new things, which is what I love about Maker's Mark. They're not just doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. They're trying new things, and this is just one of them. So whether you like this or not, it might not be for you, but at least they're trying something different. People do enjoy this. I enjoy this myself. I, again, would still love to try FAE-01, but I'm looking forward to what other things they find out in the future. I've heard things all the way down to they're planting trees today to make staves out of them 35, 40, 50 years from now for our great-great-grandkids to try barrels that are aged 30 years and staves that are being built today. So again, they're putting so much time, energy, they're so far ahead of the game that it's crazy. But that's what FAE is. I rambled on enough about that. Let's get back to our score for you here. So very interesting things that Maker's Mark is doing, but this battle came in at an 8.50 exactly, which is a great spot for this. Again, Maker's Mark isn't my favorite, but what they're doing here keeps me interested in Maker's Mark. I'll continue to buy it. I'll continue to try it as long as they continue to do new things. But at an 8.50, it's definitely up there near the top of the charts, and I'm glad it's up there because I really love Maker's Mark. It's one of the distilleries that I want to visit when I go down to Kentucky and do the tours. I've heard it's amazing. I want to dip my own bottle. I'm not a big fan of the wax, but Maker's Mark is the originator of it. Well, maybe not, but at least I think so. But that's where we're going to leave you for today. Make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Every Tuesday at 4 p.m. I drop an image of the bourbon that I'm going to review. You can go on and try and guess the score that I'm going to give it. If you guess the closest, I'll give you a shout out on the channel, as well as enter you in some monthly drawings. I don't have anything to show you. I got koozies, coasters, custom Glencairns, t-shirts, hoodies, all kinds of stuff that you can win. Also, if you want to support the channel, check me out on Patreon. That link will be in the description below. And if you want to chat with us 24/7, come join us on Discord. Link in the description as well. Please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly. And as always, stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all.